Imagine living your whole life scared half to death. The people who lived during the Anglo-Saxon era in Britain had a world filled with unknown monsters they imagined, superstition, and terror of actual real people who were their enemies that they constantly had to fight. They had to fight Vikings. They weren't sure who else they had to fight. Sometimes it was other small groups of natives peoples, the Welsh, the Celts, and they also fought a great deal with each other. And everything in their society was organized around warlords. In fact, their word for Lord as in Jesus is Lord was the same as a warlord. In other words, the chieftain, the gang leader. That is who they thought was God. And people found nothing scarier than an enemy they did not think they could beat, like a monster, or an enemy with some kind of power that they didn't understand, or even scarier than that was the idea of being divided from their warlord's clan in some geographical way. Because who has your back in a world of monsters if not your gang? That is what they really lived like. Now, the thing that I asked you to read for this class, the Anglo-Saxon Elegies, has this very intellectual introduction, and everything it says is true. I'm not asking you to disregard it. But I think this has more to do with whatever movie you watched lately about gangs and killers and drug lords than it does with some kind of professor with a pipe smoking in his office in an Ivy League school saying, oh yes, yes, there were terribly frightening times. No, they were really scared. It was really passionately frightening to them. And then, because this is not a world that understands science, as I said in my PowerPoint video that you saw about thinking like an ancient world person, they didn't have a context in which to put anything. Storms came from the finger of God. Technology of another kind was as weird to them as if you came across in the middle of the night when you were out, say, on the Bogue Falaya, if you suddenly saw a smoking fuselage of a spacecraft that had been shot through, first of all, you'd say, where are the aliens? Then you would also say to yourself, what the heck just shot them down, and is it coming from me? They're not the scariest thing in this landscape. I know it wasn't just the gators that got them. Something really bad got them. And as weird as that is as an idea, that's really the world that these people lived in. The poem, The Ruin, the introduction suggests, oh yes, yes, it's an elegy. An elegy is a poem about somebody we miss. We often write elegies about absent lovers, absent friends, people who've died, and we miss them. We're going to read some much more modern elegies. There is all of that there, and it is true, but there is something else going on. Because when the men, and we can assume they were men because women stayed home from these monster wars, the men who came across the Roman ruins at Bath that they write about in the poem, The Ruin, they were certainly frightened, just like you would be if you were canoeing and saw the fuselage smoking of an alien spacecraft, because there were marble arches and running water. They had never even seen a house built with rocks, much less marble. And running water, forget about it. They had never even seen that. And yet they knew these people, the thing they had built was covered with vines, and they didn't know that the Romans had occupied northern England for a time and then went back to try to defend the city of Rome at the fall of the Roman Empire. They didn't know why this thing was vacant. And they saw holes in things, and they saw critters scurrying between pillars, and they said to themselves, we couldn't even build this stuff, and what the heck killed these people off? We are in so much trouble. And that is the nature of the poem's guts here. It is an elegy. They are certainly noticing time kills all of us. Yes, we're all leaves in the wind, and we one day die. We're born and we die, and all that's true, but there's also this sentiment to this poem. And that comes into this word. We get the word weird that we use, like this video is really weird. My professor of English is really weird. That weird, they have this word, W-Y-R-D, weird. In Anglo-Saxon Old English, that has the meaning not of weird as in, oh, that's, peculiar. It's fate. It's the kind of fate you would see if you've ever seen any of the movies called Final Destination Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, where if something is willed by the gods, that something bad will happen to you on a certain day, it will for sure happen. And there is nothing you could do about it. And they saw the absent Romans, whoever had built this giant palace with running water, they didn't understand, and they thought, wow, it's the gods. The gods had to do this to them. It was their weird, this idea of absolute fate. We don't really think this way in modern worlds. Even if we are very pious and believe in God, we believe that what we do changes our destiny if we believe in God. Everything that you have done to even be a student at Southeastern tells me that you believe that what you do will change your destiny to some degree. The very fact that you're enrolled in this class means you think that there is some destination beyond this class that will allow you to do other things that you wish to do. It's very American to think you can change what happens to you. It's not an ancient British thought. What they believe, for instance, here, I'll give you a modern example of what it would mean to live in a world where weird is the operating source. Let's imagine, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from around here. I used to live in New York City. And imagine I got a prophecy. Someone who talked to the gods told me that on, let's see, what's today? Is today the 21st of May? At about noon, I would be hit by a crosstown 34th Street bus in Manhattan, from Manhattan. And so I changed my whole life. I leave New York City. I moved to Southeastern Louisiana. I become a professor here. And on the day, May 21st at around noon, I'm on the 4th floor of a building, nowhere near a 34th Street crosstown bus in Manhattan. Well, according to the thinking of Wyrd and of other ancient thinkers, if it really was a prophecy from the gods, nothing I did can possibly matter. Through a window on the 4th floor, a 34th Street bus is going to come careening through, break the glass, and kill only me, dead on the floor. So it's almost noon. I should probably say goodbye. I think I better try to hide in a closet or something because I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to tempt Wyrd. You, in the meantime, read those elegies with the understanding that fear of separation from other people was a very real thing. And the idea that even someone with superior technology could get offed by fate was real and terrifying.